Dan Lanning has already cemented himself as one of the best coaches in the entire country. He is 22-5 in 2 years with Oregon and was one win away from the college football playoff last year, but still went 12-2 and won the Fiesta Bowl in dominating fashion over Liberty. And now, entering 2024, you hear all the storylines about how Oregon lost Bo Nix, and they lost Bucky Irving, and they lost Troy Franklin, and they lost so many other key starters, and now Oregon surely can't be as good this year as they were last year, and we say, you're wrong. We say, year 3 for Oregon under Dan Lanning. The Ducks' first year in the Big Ten might be his best season yet, and it might be the year that Dan Lanning leads Oregon to their first ever national title. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. Ready to break down the Oregon Ducks, one of my favorite teams and most intriguing teams to watch out for this season. I'm so excited to watch some Oregon football. As always, please continue to like, to comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com. We've got tons of exclusive content over there to help you get through this offseason, an offseason that is nearing a close, guys, because once prediction season starts here at our channel, that's the official start of the season for us here. So the offseason is nearly done here at the Gridiron Expert. All the more reason to check us out. Again, our website, our mailing address to send us some of your team's gear. Get us some Oregon gear to be represented in every single Gridiron Expert video. Everything back here has been sent in by you guys, members of our GE Nation. We want to, represent your team. We want to represent our nation from coast to coast. Again, all that stuff down in the description below as we inch closer and closer to the start of this college football season. So Oregon, guys, for years has been a, perennial power. Chip Kelly kind of made them that during his time in Eugene. Yeah, they had a couple up and down years. The last few years of the Mark Helfrich era weren't great. Then Willie Fritz had that 1 year stint there. They went through a couple rough patches, but Dan Lanning has this team back where they should be, back where they deserve to be. And they are entering the Big Ten, their first year in the Big Ten, as a Big Ten title contender. A lot of these teams enter and they make this transition to a new conference because it might take them a year or two to win the conference. Oregon, you could argue, is the best team in the Big Ten right now. I know Ohio State might have something to say about that, but I think those are your top two teams. It's not the defending national champions in Michigan. It is Oregon, the newcomer, and Ohio State. They're the two best teams in the Big Ten. And to me, it's 1A and 1B. Very, very close. You look at what Oregon's got coming in. This team is loaded with talent. Bo Nix gone, Dylan Gabriel in. That's a pretty dang good replacement. Gabriel has been a phenomenal quarterback over the course of his entire career, dating back to his time at UCF, and then just last year at Oklahoma, over 3,600 yards, 30 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions, also added 12 rushing touchdowns as well. So he is one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country. He's got a great, accurate arm. The passing game is not going to take any drop-off whatsoever. Maybe one could argue it would be even better this year with Dylan Gabriel than it was with Bo Nix. They also have Dante Moore as his backup, so a phenomenal 5-star recruit that originally committed to Oregon, then went to UCLA last year, back at Oregon now. Moore might not see the field much this year, but Oregon now has their quarterback for the future. So they are set at the most important position on the field. They are set for this year and for the next few seasons as well. So Dan Lanning doing a phenomenal job on that recruiting trail. Noah Whittington is back at running back, was injured early last year. He does return to give this team some running back depth, replacing Bucky Irving. But you've also got Jordan James, who had over 750 rushing yards and 7.1 yards per carry just last season. So the running back room is loaded. They are going to be running behind a very stout offensive line, one of the better ones in the country as it has been in recent years, and it's not going to change anytime soon. The offensive line, despite losing a handful of key starters like Jackson Powers Johnson, is still going to be insanely strong. And in the wide receiver room, someone goes, they lose Troy Franklin, they lose a handful of other key starters. Tez Johnson returns after having over 1,100 yards last year and 10 touchdowns, and then they added a speedy wide receiver from Texas A&M in Evan Stewart, who had over 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns in his 2 years down in College Station. So you've got a great quarterback, you've got depth at running back, you've got a strong offensive line, you've got a great wide receiver core with 2 elite wide receivers at your disposal. The offense was great last year, and it's going to be great again this year. The defense, that is where Dan Lanning made his living, right? He engineered that elite defense at Georgia that helped lead them to that national title. Then he leaves Georgia, goes to Oregon. He's a defensive-minded coach. And look at what they've got coming back. Jordan Birch anchors that defensive line at the defensive end position. Jamari Caldwell transfers in from Houston. You got Jeffrey Bassa at linebacker, arguably the heart and soul of this entire defense, anchoring the defense at the linebacker position. And then you've got your transfers. Jabbar Muhammad transfers in from Washington, Oregon's bitter rival, and also now Big Ten Conference member, transfers in to Oregon, one of the better cornerbacks in the Pac-12 last year. They had Kobe Savage in at safety from Kansas State, one of the best safeties in the entire country. To me, you look at this, there's not a weak spot on the defense. There really isn't. That secondary is insanely strong. That linebacking core is insanely strong. That defensive line is insanely strong. If you wanted to make an argument of where the weakness could be, maybe a couple of holes to fill in the front seven, but nothing too drastic and nothing that Dan Lanning and his staff cannot handle. This team, guys, offensively is loaded. Defensively is loaded. And you have to remember, they were just a few plays away from making the college football playoff last year. 2 losses to Washington, once in the regular season, once again in the Pac-12 championship, from making the college football playoff. Now the playoff has expanded to 12 teams. And you've got an Oregon team that is loaded with talent, has one of the best coaches in the country, and has an expanded playoff now. It is playoff or bust for the Ducks this year. They're going to be a top 5, at least top 10 team. We have them as top 5. Top 10 team at the worst to start the year. And anything less than a playoff berth would be viewed as a major disappointment. And the beauty of this is that Oregon's schedule works out so well for them. Their first year in the Big Ten, it works out so well that I do think, as a matter of fact, they will make the college football playoff. We're not making these massive predictions yet, and I'm not telling you who they're going to beat and who they're going to lose to, if they are to lose at all. But the schedule is great. Boise State and Oregon State in the non-conference on top of Idaho, but no need to talk about that. So intriguing games there. Boise State, no slouch. Oregon State keeping that rivalry game alive despite the fact that Oregon moved to the Big Ten. Oregon State and Washington State are kind of left in no man's land with the destruction of the Pac-12. So that's going to be fun there. They get to host their biggest game of the year. They get to host Ohio State. At the beginning of this video, we talked about that, how we believe it's Oregon and Ohio State are the 2 best teams in the Big Ten entering this season, and Oregon gets to host the Buckeyes in Eugene. Talk about a game. Talk about one heck of a matchup. A game that could determine who goes to the Big Ten championship, a game that could have major implications on college football playoff seeding, college football playoff berths. Both teams are expected to make the playoffs, but it's a matter of, is one of these teams going to get a bye week? Is one of these teams going to be a 5 or 6 seed? Will one of these teams get to host that on-campus game in the first round? That plays a pretty big role. A lot of things at stake in this one, and what's going to be one of the most highly anticipated matchups of the entire season. Ohio State has to come to Eugene. Massive, massive, massive for Oregon. They get to host Washington as well. The Huskies are going to be nothing like they were last year as the national runner-up. You know, Kalen DeBoer's gone, Michael Penix is gone, Rome Odunze's gone, Jalen Polk's gone. So many guys are gone from the Washington team, but Oregon gets to host them. Big-time rivalry game and what will be a major revenge game for the Ducks. Their 2 toughest road games are at Michigan and at Wisconsin, a Michigan team that is going through major changes and is going to look completely different from the team that we saw go undefeated and win the national championship last year, and a Wisconsin team that really disappointed in year 1 under Luke Fickell. While we do think they're going to improve, and while Camp Randall Stadium is not an easy place to play by any means, that's a game that, as of right now, I think Oregon would be favored in. Maybe not by much, but they would be favored in it. There was a very good chance, when you look at the schedule, Oregon can find a way to go 11-1, maybe even 12-0, at the worst 10-2. And I'm here to tell you, as I've told you time and time again, even teams that go 10-2 have a shot at making that 12-team college football playoff. In the past, when you hit 2 losses, you were done. Look at Oregon last year. Oregon was a phenomenal team last year. They lost 2 games. One of them was in their conference championship game, but they still couldn't get in. It was a 4-team playoff. If there had been a 12-team playoff last year, a 2-loss, 11-2 Oregon team that lost the Pac-12 championship to Washington, they're getting in. They're getting in. And this year, I think a 10-2 Oregon team that maybe loses to Ohio State and Michigan, if you wanted to pick 2 games, quality opponents, they're getting in. There is no reason they're going to go worse than that, but I think a lot of people would have them at 11-1, maybe even undefeated. This is the year, guys. This is the year. In the first year of the college football playoff, Oregon made the national championship. They fell to Ohio State. How fitting. Now, the playoff has expanded to 12 teams. The Ohio State game, the biggest game on their schedule, Oregon gets to host it. They have a shot to make the 12-team playoff. They should make the 12-team playoff, and I believe this could be the year that they win their first ever national championship. This team is loaded from top to bottom and will be one of the best teams in the country all year long. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. We've got our website, thegridironexpert.com. Do not miss out on that. We've got our mailing address there to send us some Oregon gear or whoever your team may be so we can represent them in every single video. Make sure to hit that notification button so you don't miss out on any future videos coming your way, including prediction season, which will be here before you know it as we break down every single game for every single college football team. All the more reason to like, to comment, subscribe, become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.